Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rick Kidder, co-CEO of One South Coast Chamber. And today we have the pleasure of hearing from the gifted young students from New Bedford High School. Give them a hand. You were greeted by New Bedford High's talented jazz combo, the upper class jazz combo as they've named themselves. That combo is under the direction of Lynn Marie Dandino. Give them a hand, please. And now we are fortunate to hear a medley performed by the New Bedford High School Jazz Choir. Please welcome them. The Jazz Choir is an after-school choral program, also under the direction of Lynn Marie Dandino. The 16 members of the Jazz Choir are participants in other performing arts groups, including concert band, drama club, jazz band, concert chorale, and SATB show choir. They perform at music department-sponsored concerts and at local events. They will sing a song selection. Some of you will notice, you'll know these. The Pink Panther by Henry Mancini and arranged by Jay Althouse, and All the Cats Join by Sauter, Gilbert, and Wilder, and arranged by Kirby Shaw. Please welcome the New Bedford Jazz Choir.
Ba Good afternoon. I'm Mike O'Sullivan, the other co-CEO of One South Coast Chamber. We have numerous elected officials that have taken time out of their busy schedules to join us here today. Please give us a wave as I announce your name. First, our congressional delegation is in Washington today, but here with us are representatives from the offices of Congressman Bill Keating and Jake Auchincloss and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Representing Bristol County, we have the District Attorney, Tom Quinn. And representing the New Bedford City Council, we have President Ian Abreu and Councilors Shane Burgo, Naomi Carney, Maria Giesta, Brad Markey, and Ryan Pereira. And from the New Bedford School Committee, we have Christopher Cotter, Bruce Oliveira, Melissa Costa, Ross Grace Jr., Jack Livramento, and we also have several candidates for office that are attending today. The candidate for governor is Chris Dowdy. Candidate for lieutenant governor, Brett Barrow. State Senator Eric Lesser. And for Attorney General, we have candidate Andrea Campbell. And candidates for State Auditor, we have Chris Dempsey and Diana DeZoglio. I apologize, Diana, if I got that wrong. That was the only one I was really worried about. Also here today, our state representative candidate, Rick Trapillo, and Bristol County Sheriff candidate, Nick Bernier. And now we'll have a short video from Mayor Jon Mitchell.
For more than 2 years, COVID-19 has kept us apart, but we have responded together. Together, we're building an even stronger city that is ready for revival and ready for opportunity. Plans long in the works are now taking shape across New Bedford. New facilities will provide more space and resources for all of our maritime industries. Intercity rail service is expected to start rolling in 2023. And new resources for businesses, large and small, are fueling economic growth. On the waterfront, the nation's most lucrative fishing port also is home to a growing seafood processing industry. And next year, offshore wind in the United States will launch right here as Vineyard Wind begins operations utilizing our waterfront and maritime expertise. All that growth will be fueled by major developments about to break ground. In coming months, the Eversource Sprague site will be transformed into the New Bedford Foss Marine Terminal. And D.W. White construction of Acushnet will expand North Terminal for offshore wind and commercial fishing use. While the state is accepting development proposals for the long underused State Pier, and the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal is about to become fully activated. At the core of projects across the city is environmental sustainability through the city's NB Resilient Climate Action Plan, an infusion of federal COVID-19 relief funding through the American Rescue Plan Act will support businesses open space, and housing. But New Bedford's economy is already growing on its own. The city is accepting proposals to develop a section of Whaling City Golf Course into New Bedford's second industrial park. More restaurants opened than closed in the city during the pandemic, reversing national trends. The foundation for local careers is our schools, where the 4-year graduation rate at New Bedford High School has reached 88%, up from 58% less than 10 years ago. New Bedford is a safer city. Crime in New Bedford has fallen 40% since 2016, and we're investing in new facilities like the South End Public Safety Center. We're injecting new funding into the city's flourishing art scene, boosting programs to enhance outdoor spaces, art-related businesses, and tourism, as the return of iconic local events brings our residents back together and reopens our city to visitors. By keeping this momentum going, New Bedford is poised for a historic period of growth and opportunity, emerging from COVID-19 stronger than ever and looking forward to a bright future.
Mayor, I'm glad we got the sound straightened out. The last thing I wanted was a Will Smith, Chris Rock moment, as you can. New Bedford is clearly a community on the rise, and we are very, very excited that this community is continuing its remarkable progress. At this time, I would like to invite Don Tropoli, Senior Vice President and Business Banking Region Manager for Massachusetts and Rhode Island, to the podium to introduce Mayor Mitchell on behalf of Webster Bank.
Thanks a lot, Rick. I appreciate it. And it is absolutely wonderful to be here in person with everybody again today. This is just fantastic. I think we've got about 550 people here. Like Rick said, my name is Don Tropoli, and I manage business banking for Massachusetts and Rhode Island for Webster Bank. We are delighted to be here supporting this event for the 11th year as a partner in this chamber and city event. We look forward to hearing from Mayor Mitchell on all the things happening to make New Bedford, greater New Bedford, stronger and better for all. At its core, Webster Bank's mission is to help businesses, individuals, and local governments achieve their strategic and financial goals. We do so by bringing expertise, ideas, capital, sophisticated cash management tools to our local manufacturing, services, distribution, and seafood industries, helping them grow, create jobs, and export products overseas. We help individuals purchase homes, plan for college, and plan for retirement. We also work closely with our local nonprofits who are making such an important and critical impact, especially during these difficult times. On behalf of all of us at Webster Bank, I'd like to thank Rick Kidder, Mike O'Sullivan, all of the staff at the One South Coast Chamber for all their hard work and for putting together such a great event. And I thank you, Mr. Mayor Mitchell, for your leadership and commitment to the city of New Bedford over the past decade. It's now my pleasure and honor to introduce Mayor Jon Mitchell. First elected in 2011, Jon Mitchell is New Bedford's 38th mayor. He has been reelected 4 times, and he's the city's first mayor to be elected for a 4-year term. Jon has sought to reestablish New Bedford as one of the leading cities in the Northeast. He has moved aggressively to reform the city's schools, improve public safety, modernize the port, and elevate the quality of life in every neighborhood. This approach has paid off, as under Jon's leadership, the city has achieved both the highest bond rating and the highest high school graduation rate in history, which is truly incredible. Lowered crime by nearly 40%, secured hundreds of millions of dollars in new port investments, and positioned itself to become the strong leader in the emerging offshore wind industry. Prior to running for office, John was an assistant U.S. District Attorney in Boston, having previously served as a federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C. in the Attorney General's Honor Program. During his career, John prosecuted cases of national significance. The product of local public schools and the son of public school teachers, John graduated from Harvard College and George Washington Law School. He also served 6 years in the Army National Guard. He's married to Ann Partridge, a professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School and vice chair of medical oncology at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. They are proud parents of 3 daughters, Grace, Natalie, and Lauren. And without further ado, it's my genuine pleasure to introduce New Bedford Mayor Jon Mitchell.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Don, for that kind introduction. And thank you, Rick and the Chamber, for bringing us back together this year. And to Webster Bank and to all the sponsors for your enduring support. Many thanks also to Headmaster Bernadette Coelho and the team here at New Bedford High School for their hospitality. And of course, the New Bedford High School Jazz Choir, let's hear it again for them. So I am thrilled to be back again before all of you. The live State of the City address was among the first events back in 2020 that we were forced to cancel. The virtual addresses we held in their place since then went as planned, but they weren't quite like the real thing. Council President Abram, members of the City Council and School Committee, District Attorney Quinn and Sheriff Hodgson, state legislators, city and county officials, residents, and friends of New Bedford. It indeed has been a long couple of years. About this time in 2020, we were responding to an unfolding public health crisis, the likes of which the world had not seen in over a century. In a matter of weeks, nearly every facet of our lives was upended by a rapidly spreading coronavirus. Here and elsewhere, the uncertainty was intensified by the scale of the loss. Over 500 New Bedford residents have died from COVID-19. They were parents, sisters and brothers, neighbors, aunts and uncles. They were public figures like former Mayor Fred Kalitz, and they were friends and work colleagues, and all were a part of the fabric of our city. Each of us knows at least one person who succumbed to the disease. The loss and hardship are impossible to quantify and will forever remain with us. Given the city's older than average population, its higher incidence of underlying health conditions, and our large industrial workforce, for which working from home was not an option, the overall challenge here was steeper than in most places. I am proud of the way our city responded. Our collective efforts avoided a far, far worse outcome. Now, there's a long list of innovative steps we took that were tailored to the specific needs of New Bedford, some of which garnered national attention. Suffice it to say, though, that we avoided a much worse outcome because we didn't hesitate, we were creative, and we worked as a team. City employees, healthcare workers, and residents all together. Now, there are many who deserve to take a bow, but I would like to salute in particular the Health Department under the leadership of Damone Chaplin, Emergency Management, headed up by Brian Nobriga, Emergency Medical Services under Mark McGraw and Mike Thomas, along with Travis Rabello in the Fire Department, who is responsible for testing and protective equipment. The New Bedford Community Health Center under Cheryl Bartlett. and Connie Mimosa from Seven Hills Behavioral Health, along with the support we received, of course, from South Coast Health and Hawthorne Medical. There are so many folks, including many in this room, who pitched in, and I'm remiss. I feel like we could spend all day thanking them, but they truly deserve our gratitude. They and our teams have worked tirelessly to enable us to understand what we faced and to implement our response. And again, one last round of applause for everybody for the work they so ably performed. Now, they would be the first to say that their work should not be described in the past tense. They are actively preparing for what's next with COVID-19. And whatever it is, they will be ready. But, as I said all along, responding to the pandemic was not our only task. We still had to press on with the work of building a stronger, more vibrant city once the pandemic ended. It would have been natural simply to hunker down and wait for the storm to pass. But we didn't do that. We didn't let the pandemic become an excuse for not doing the work we're expected to do. As hard as it was to carry on, our work together has extended a decade-long run of progress. Consider the following. Thanks to the dedication of our police department, neighborhood task force, and residents who have taken personal responsibility for their neighborhoods, crime in New Bedford continued to fall. In 2020, as violent crime skyrocketed in cities across the country, it dropped some 5% in New Bedford. Property crime fell 21%. This continues a record of success over the last 6 years in which crime overall in the city has fallen 39%, one of the sharpest declines in the country. Now, many of you will remember a mere 10 years ago when perhaps the city's most vexing challenge was the abysmal graduation rate here at the city's flagship high school, which stood at 58%. We have moved heaven and earth to improve the performance of our school department since then. And in the midst of the pandemic, the graduation rate at New Bedford High School right here reached 88%. Now, this has been one of the most dramatic improvements in a major urban high school anywhere in America. But more importantly, it represents the opportunity, or the opening of opportunity for thousands of the city's young adults. Our economy has snapped it back. Our city's bond rating remains the highest in its history. Our small businesses that were blindsided early in the pandemic have been backstopped by short-term lending from the Economic Development Council under the leadership of Derek Santos. Now things are more stable. The fishing industry. The fishing industry has rebounded and our manufacturers are expanding. Most striking of all, despite the implosion of the nation's restaurant industry, New Bedford has seen 7 more restaurants open during the pandemic than closed. Again, I don't know anywhere else in the country that could match that. We've moved many major developments along, all out of public view during the pandemic, and they've made real progress. After a long and complicated process, we put out the bid just last week, a request for proposals to develop the city's second business park, located on a portion of the municipal golf course. The deal has closed to build the port's second offshore wind deployment facility at the Eversource site, while construction will soon begin on the North Terminal extension, as well as the new shipyard at the Revere Copper and Brass site. Here's what you need to know. Any one of these 4 major projects alone would represent a significant enhancement to the local economy. As we regroup today and in the days ahead from the long ordeal of the pandemic, we refocus our sights on the New Bedford we aspire to build. A city that is the cultural, economic, and political center of a proud region. A city with a diverse economy that offers opportunity for everyone who seeks it. A city with a highly professional, caring, and efficient government that commands the confidence of taxpayers. A city recognized for its physical beauty, cultural richness, and the compassion of its residents, and where everyone feels like they belong. Our work toward this common vision entails 3 lines of collective effort. First, we must provide services that support a high quality of life for all of our residents. Second, we must make the most of our competitive advantages to build a more dynamic and diversified economy. Third, we must reinforce our connection to place and to one another so that ours can truly be a team effort. Let's talk about each one. Elevating a city's quality of life requires a commitment to excellence in the administration of city government and a firm understanding of the needs of our residents and those who might choose to live here. It starts with the basics. A thriving city is built on a foundation of public safety. The steady decrease in crime over the last several years has strengthened that foundation in New Bedford. Now, there are a number of reasons for the decline, including the growth in our economy, the persistent efforts of the Neighborhood Task Force, and our partnership with DA Quinn's office. But our police deserve the bulk of the credit. The department has become more sophisticated in the use of data and has a healthy reserve of trust among our residents, a fact that goes a long way to explain why New Bedford avoided the civil unrest that plagued most American cities in 2020. But we cannot and will not rest on our laurels. Chief Oliveira understands well that the department must keep up with the changing nature of policing in order to sustain and build upon the success we've had. He's hired one of America's top policing experts, Bob Wasserman, who was one of the architects of New York City's turnaround in the 1990s, to help the department develop strategies for 21st century policing. This is a collaborative effort among police officers in the department aimed at strengthening the trust and legitimacy of police in our city, which is the basis of effective policing. At the same time, our fire and EMS services rose to the occasion in the last 2 years. The fire department responded to a spate of house fires that were attributable in part to the effects of the pandemic. And EMS, as you might imagine, responded to a blizzard of COVID-related medical calls. Meanwhile, they both continue to respond to the other public health crisis of our time, namely the opioid epidemic, which only became worse as people were forced to stay home early in the pandemic. While recent progress has been made, there's a whole lot of work to be done. Thanks to funds recovered in lawsuits by the city and the Attorney General against the opioid manufacturers, we will soon ramp up our direct outreach and prevention so that we can at last turn the tide against addiction. Now, to be successful, a city must create pathways for its residents to reach their full potential. And more than anything else, that means we must offer our city's children a public school education that enables them to thrive as adults. We now have a school system that is clear in its academic goals, manages taxpayer dollars responsibly, and has raised the standards for academic instruction. We've revamped the teaching of non-English speakers, upgraded technology, and modernized the curriculum, and done so much more. The work has produced real results, most notably in the improvement in the district's four-year graduation rate, but also increases in test scores at our elementary schools and the strengthened competitiveness in college admissions, which, for example, helped to land 3 students from this past year's class at MBHS at Harvard. These last 2 years, the school department was tested like never before. Like its counterparts in other cities, it was faced with the unprecedented challenge of ensuring the safety of students and staff while minimizing the pandemic's disruption on education. School districts across America struck the balance in different ways. And in the Northeast, the prevailing wisdom was to rely exclusively on remote learning. Superintendent Anderson, with the support of the school committee, followed the public health advice, which said that the risk could be managed. Of the 10 largest school districts in Massachusetts, New Bedford was the only one that operated in at least the hybrid format throughout the entire school year. Compared to most of the state's urban districts as a result, New Bedford did not experience a dramatic decrease in test scores while it still protected the health of students and staff. The task now is for the district to start moving forward again. New federal and state funding will help. More than at any point in since the 1970s, the school district is rebuilding its physical plan. Replacements of our four elementary schools are in the pipeline, as is the construction of a new kitchen facility, along with central kitchen facility, along with major renovations at most of the district's 26 schools. These investments will help establish supportive learning environments for our kids for years to come. The pandemic's emotional toll on students demands our attention, of course. Prolonged isolation, the canceling of rites of passage like proms and sporting events and graduations, and in many cases, the loss of family members made it more difficult these past 2 years to be a kid. We adults need to restore a sense of normalcy to New Bedford's children as much as possible and as quickly as possible. This year's school budget will include major funding increases for social and emotional learning services for many of the students who need them. We're expanding our pre-K and early literacy programs so that more of our city's littlest ones can begin elementary school with a running start. To reconnect students of every age, we will upgrade extracurricular programs and actively recruit students into them to participate so they connect with their friends. For high school students, we are launching an early college program with Bristol Community College to prime the pipeline of college enrollment and performance. We will continue to build out the Honors Academy with new supports for college admissions so that still more of our students can be admitted into America's top colleges. The district is also certified its first vocational program, which is up and running now, so that we can prepare students for the burgeoning opportunities in our hospitality sector. Today's servers, by the way, are among the first students in the program, and they've demonstrated to all of us that they're off to a really fast start, so let's hear it for them. The city's non-district schools are also helping to provide the extra supports our students need right now. On this front, I want to offer a special shout out to Mike Watson and the team at Voc Tech for their efforts during the pandemic. Maintaining continuity of instruction in shop classes at the state's largest vocational school was inherently difficult to pull off. Yet they managed to keep things going despite it all, and they deserve a great deal of credit for that. So it will take our best efforts to get our kids back on track, but they deserve nothing less from us. We will continue to invest in the city's built environment so that New Bedford will be an even more functional, resilient, and pleasant place to live in. The city's infrastructure is a vast machine of roadways and buildings and various utilities that enable residents and businesses to connect with one another and go about their business and their lives. Keeping it working properly requires a commitment to continuous investment. And historically, that has not always happened in New Bedford. My administration made a conscious decision to seize responsibility for the appearance and condition of the city's public spaces and facilities. The city didn't have a capital plan when I got into office, and there was an enormous backlog of road work and building repairs that we faced. But the capital plan we developed and executed since then has enabled us to more than double spending on road maintenance and building renovations. And we are committed to increasing this funding further still. As part of this year's capital budget, I will propose a 25% increase in road construction funds. We are catching up with road work all the time, and I'm committed to doing it even faster. I want to thank Jamie Pont and the team at DPI for their dedication to managing the city's public infrastructure. This includes the infrastructure below ground, which is where most of it's located, unbeknownst to most people. Right now, we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars to ensure that the city's drinking water is safe and affordable for our residents, and that our wastewater system and stormwater systems are resilient in keeping with the city's climate action plan. It'll be vitally important that the City Council move the long-term spending plan on wastewater projects forward without undue delay this spring. Like dozens of other cities, New Bedford is subject to a federal court order to upgrade its wastewater system and stormwater systems, and that financial assistance from the state and federal government is available, but only to those municipalities that meet their application deadlines. This didn't happen last year, and we missed out on considerable funding. So I look forward to working with the council to ensure that New Bedford receives the funding it is entitled to. And let me just say something else about the built environment. I've often heard the criticism that I spend a little too much time making things look pretty. Now, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I swear that I'm not out there in my spare time, as some have alleged, planting flowers in public squares. But otherwise, as Andy Warhol used to say, my critics are absolutely correct. I believe that our residents deserve a city that looks great. I mean, face it, no one wants to see trash and graffiti and unnecessary signage and other clutter where they live. Clean, well-designed, and properly maintained public spaces and corridors proclaim to residents and visitors alike that ours is a city that cares about itself. We've embraced this ethic. We've planted over 4,000 trees, fixed up dozens of city buildings, including City Hall, revamped the trash system and enforced the trash laws to reduce litter, eradicated graffiti, and built 5 new neighborhood parks along with the Harbor Walk and the Cove Walk, and you're all familiar with them. To my mind, why we worked so hard at this was best captured by Richie Marshall, a custodian here at the high school who recently retired. Richie lives in the South End, and he spends a lot of time on the Harbor Walk, taking in the spectacular ocean views. I asked him not too long ago why he likes it so much, and his response was, I look out there on the water, and it's just so beautiful. I'm so glad I live here. Now think about that. I'm so glad I live here. What's different in New Bedford today is that we reject the idea we once tacitly accepted that nice things are for others. Our residents want and deserve a city they can be proud to live in, and that's what we are committed to doing. And there's much more to come. Wait, there's more, as they say. We intend to plant another 1,000 trees in the next 2 years. I don't even know if I've told DPI that, but that's what we're going to do. Using federal relief funds, there are a slew of park upgrades across the city now in the pipeline. And we will make the most of our access to the water by connecting the downtown to the central waterfront by the State Pier, as well as along the Acushnet River in the north end. And on that point, we are actively working now with the EPA to finish the Harbor Superfund cleanup, one of the largest environmental cleanups in America, so that we can build the Riverwalk with the goal of wrapping the Blue Lane all around the city. That's what we're doing. New Bedford is looking better than ever, and it's about to look better still. Who doesn't like that? Now, none of the work we do is possible if we can't pay our bills. And we are proud of that we have achieved the highest bond rating in the city's history, and that we have maintained that bond rating despite the pandemic. But you've heard me before, money is tight. It remains that way despite the cuts that we made during the pandemic. The problem is that the city continues to run what is generally referred to as a structural deficit, in which the cost of providing services is projected to rise faster in the long run than our ability to pay for it. Now, we've made cuts to city government, and it's smaller and more efficient than it was 10 years ago, but it's not enough to close that gap in the long run. In particular, the rising cost of pensions and health care, which is almost entirely driven by state policy, increases the pressure on the city either to cut important services, offer uncompetitive salaries for positions that are hard to fill, or to raise taxes. Now, unfortunately, in recent years, we've had to do all of these things. It may not look that bad right now, in part because of the cuts we recently made and the availability of federal relief funds. But we have to take seriously the need to direct the city on a more sustainable financial course. We will, of course, continue to increase efficiency wherever we can, and we will seek every opportunity to expand the tax base by encouraging the redevelopment of underutilized property. The establishment of the advanced manufacturing campus at the municipal golf course is the most prominent example. There are still plenty of other parcels out there that can be developed more quickly and put on the tax roll sooner, though. Toward this end, I am announcing today that we are setting aside $5 million in funding from the American Rescue Plan Act to accelerate the development of vacant commercial properties that need just a little bit more funding to be redeveloped. By helping these projects over the proverbial hump, we can help to pay the city's bills in the long run. Now, there is more that we have to do. We also will attempt to deal with the rising cost of health care for city employees. I will resubmit a proposal this budget season to adopt a state law that would give the city greater control over these costs. It has been adopted by nearly every city and town in southeastern Massachusetts, but has failed twice to pass the city council. I urge the council to give this proposal a thorough airing this time, so that everyone can understand that we can get a better handle on the long-term cost of health care without compromising the quality of coverage that our employees enjoy. All of our immediate suburbs have done this already, and so frankly should we. I also look forward to working with the council to ensure that our pay scale enables us to bring in the best talent to city government. This may not sound like a cost-cutting measure, but it is. In the long run, hiring mediocre candidates for important positions inevitably makes government more expensive, not less. Progress on this and every other front will be required to lighten the tax burden on residents and small businesses alike and deliver the services our residents expect. Now, the work of elevating a city's quality of life represents the blocking and tackling of city government. Doing well is indispensable to success, but alone it's not enough. And that brings us to our second line of effort. A high quality of life is impossible if the city is not fueled by an economy capable of creating wealth for its residents. And that can only happen if the city is competitive in a global economy. How a city competes varies a whole lot from city to city. Now, we're joined today by a number of candidates for state office, and I want to direct some of my remarks to them about the approach we've taken to competing, because there's an important role, of course, for the state to play. New Bedford's approach to economic development doesn't quite match up exactly with the conventional wisdom in many policy circles in Massachusetts, which tends to categorize nearly all the state's urbanized municipalities, some 26 in total, under the label gateway cities. The label is a well-intended attempt to inform policy, but it has the effect of treating every city with an industrial past identically. It fails to capture the fundamental difference between cities that are satellites of Boston and those that are themselves truly regional centers, which is what we are. New Bedford's 60 miles from Boston, farther away from the two biggest cities and the next two closest states. Although there's some overlap between our and Boston's labor markets, the region does not rise or fall with Greater Boston's economy. That's not news to anybody sitting here. Passenger rail service between New Bedford and Boston, which is slated to start next year, won't materially change that. While I and many other elected officials have advocated for this project for many years as a useful public transit option, a 90-minute train ride will not sacrifice to pull our region into Boston's orbit. And frankly, that's fine. Greater New Bedford may not be a major metropolitan area, but we are proudly a distinct metropolitan area nonetheless of nearly 250,000 people. With a center city, closely tied suburbs, and a unique history, ethnic mix, and economic base. This is the way the state should think about our region. Now, there are two major implications of being a center city of a non-major metro in today's America. The first is that the center city is chiefly responsible for driving economic competitiveness of the region. You don't get to ride the coattails of another city or the state. The other implication is that in the modern American economy, if you're not part of a major metropolitan area, competing effectively is much more difficult. America's large metros like Greater Boston and New York and so many others have been enjoying a golden age of prosperity in which they have attracted an outsized share of investment capital and talent. The dividing up of winning and losing cities in America, which is sometimes referred to as the Great Divergence, has been driven by changes in technology and global supply chains, and it goes a long way to explain why so many small and mid-sized standalone cities with industrial past, particularly in the Northeast and Midwest, have fallen further behind. New Bedford has defied these odds. Twice in the last decade, New Bedford led all of America's cities in its year-over-year decline in unemployment. Twice. Our population is growing steadily, and we've seen major investments in several really key areas. We've succeeded because we made the conscious decision to seize responsibility for our own economic competitiveness. And we've planned comprehensively, and we've executed our plans relentlessly. We look to the state as a partner in these competitive efforts, not as a savior. The essence of our strategy, which was developed through the collaboration of the New Bedford Regeneration Committee, has been all about capitalizing on our strengths, whether those are in the arts and culture sector, healthcare, hospitality, manufacturing, whatever they are. We don't impulsively pursue the latest hot industries or other fads. We double down on what we're good at, and we help to cultivate small businesses that grow organically here, and we support our anchor institutions. We have an opportunity now to accelerate our progress through targeted investments with American Rescue Plan funds. We recently announced a commitment to use ARPA funds for storefront upgrades that will not only provide a shot in the arm for restaurants, shops, and other small businesses, but also upgrade the look and feel of business districts across the city. Small business support organizations also will be getting ARPA funding to expand their ability to offer technical assistance, seed capital, and to bolster marketing initiatives like never before. We will invest ARPA funds in the city's arts and culture scene, which is one of the spices of life that make New Bedford attractive to residents and tourists. Grants will be made available to independent artists, each one of them a small business. The backbone of our arts scene is the city's major cultural institutions. And the one with the most direct impact on small businesses is the Zeiterion Performing Arts Center. If you don't believe me, just try to get a table at a restaurant downtown the night a Z show is going on. The Z not only is a driver of small businesses, but it is an educational institution and historic landmark and a gathering site for important civic events. And the Z right now is about to undertake its most comprehensive renovation and expansion in nearly 40 years, so that the Z can continue to thrive and contribute to the life of the city for the next 40 years. I'm announcing today that we will invest $5 million in ARPA funds into the Z's effort. Yes, and that the most enthusiastic clapping was coming from the Z's table, right on cue. As cities must reinvest in their anchor institutions, frankly, this one is a no-brainer. We're also investing ARPA funds to help backstop employees of businesses of every size by expanding housing and childcare opportunities for their employees throughout the city. And we're also actively developing plans to build out a broadband network to make affordable, high-speed internet available to business districts and neighborhoods alike. I also want to note that the New Bedford Regional Airport, another pillar of the regional economy, is poised to rebound after a decline in air traffic during the height of the pandemic. A lot has happened there since the last time we all came together. The airport's governing commission, led by Carlos D'Acunha, now has several new members, and the strategic plan is now being implemented. Having rebuilt both runways in recent years, we will use ARPA funds for the design of a new entryway and new terminal, both sorely needed. These investments will help put us in a more sustainable position to connect our region with the rest of the world. Now, there's more to come with ARPA funds, but suffice it to say, it offers us a generational opportunity to invest in what's working in New Bedford. And I want to thank Senators Warren and Markey and Congressman Keating and Auchincloss for their support of the legislation that brought forth the American Rescue Plan, as well as City Council President Ian Abreu, Councilor Brad Markey, Councilor Maria Jesta, and all the members of the City Council who worked with my administration on developing a thoughtful plan for ARPA investments. It's going to make a big difference in the long run. Thank you all. Of course, much of our work in economic development centers around the port, which represents the single largest set of New Bedford's competitive advantages. The Port of New Bedford generates over $11 billion in annual economic activity and supports nearly 7,000 jobs. Its strong suit, of course, is fishing, as it's both the top commercial fishing port and the largest seafood processing center in America. Next year, the port will launch the American offshore wind industry with the Vineyard Wind Project, the first of what is predicted to be more than $24 billion worth of wind projects down the East Coast in the next decade. This is all happening while existing maritime businesses are growing. Much of the East Coast fishing industry is gravitating to New Bedford, with well over 100 out-of-state vessels landing here each year. We've seen several processing plants relocate here or undergo multi-million-dollar expansions. The island ferries are thriving, and the recreational marinas are full and all have waiting lists. Much of what makes fishing in particular so successful here, such as our geographic proximity to valuable natural resources, useful infrastructure, a cluster of maritime businesses, and the most skillful seafaring workforce in America, can also support the development of other industries, especially offshore wind. We are accentuating all of these advantages, both to bolster our strength in fishing and to capture the massive amount of investment up for grabs in offshore wind. Now, there are many other ports along the East Coast vying for this investment. And as all of you know, especially those who've been to this speech in years past to hear me talk about it, we've been gearing up for this competition for several years. And I'm here to tell you, we are here to compete to win. Our strategy to do that is multifaceted. It starts with expanding the industrial capacity of the port. Years of planning are now bearing fruit in the largest set of infrastructure projects in the long esteemed history of the Port of New Bedford. In addition to the North Terminal extension, the development of the Eversource site, and the new shipyard that I mentioned earlier, there's a lot more. Last year, the federal government renovated and returned to our custody the former EPA terminal, yet another major port facility and warehouse. We're working with the Mass Clean Energy Center, which recently set aside $30 million for the expansion of the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal. We're shoring up our main fishing piers. We're working with Mass Development to activate a section of the State Pier to support operations and maintenance of wind projects. And we're assembling the financing for a 200-foot extension of Leonard's Wharf. Meanwhile, the dredging necessary to allow vessels access to all of these facilities is about to get underway in earnest at a scale not seen here since the 1950s. I go through this long list to emphasize that these and still more port projects represent hundreds of millions of dollars that are coming directly into the port that will serve as the foundation for a beehive of economic activity for the foreseeable future. Now, I am grateful for the support of our federal and state legislative delegations for funding the programs to which these projects could apply, and the work of our Port Authority to compete successfully for the funding and to execute those projects, and they are complicated. Much of the rest of our maritime strategy builds on this foundation of hard infrastructure. We're developing plans now with the Mass CEC, UMass Dartmouth under Chancellor Fuller's leadership, and other institutions to create new platforms for marine innovation and entrepreneurship, so that the marine cluster here can continue to evolve new businesses and create new jobs. Now, we're also getting ready by preparing the workforce that the maritime industries will need. Bristol Community College's National Offshore Wind Institute under Laura Douglas, Greater New Bedford Folk Tech, and Mass Hire Greater New Bedford are all leading the way when it comes to developing programs to create opportunity for anyone who wishes to pursue a career in this very exciting new industry or any maritime industries. And we now have launched the New Bedford Ocean Cluster, whose job it will be to tie all of this activity together. Under the leadership of Jennifer Downing, the MBOC's mission is to ensure that local businesses are connected up to these opportunities, the ones that we have coming our way, and to promote the port to businesses that might invest here. So yes, it's a long list, but there's a lot going on the waterfront. Our goal, simply stated, is to establish New Bedford as the top blue economy city on the East Coast, period, full stop. We will lead in fishing, we will lead in offshore wind, and when it comes to maritime innovation, we will lead there too. Now, we in city government will continue to work hard to make New Bedford a stronger and more vibrant and sustainable city, and I'm eager to work with the City Council toward that end, as I know they feel the same as I do. I emphasize that in building a city, municipal government has a role to play. Government cannot do it all, and maybe not even most of it. It is not realistic to turn to City Hall for the default solution to every problem, however minor. No city can succeed without robust private initiative. Something is expected of each of us. And as we emerge from the pandemic, it's perhaps more important than ever for all of us to recognize these obligations. The notion of citizenship is rooted in the idea that we do have obligations to others. It requires more than simply expressing an opinion about what someone else should do without asking first what we can do. Citizenship requires actual action in service of our collective interests, even when it's not perfectly convenient, even when it's not easy, and even when you think someone else should be doing it. It recognizes the difference between posting a picture of a littered sidewalk on Facebook and lamenting the mess, and instead picking up the trash and throwing it away. For everyone who professes a love for our great city, your city needs you to act on that love, to go all in on New Bedford. Great examples of going all in on New Bedford are not hard to find. Steve Silverstein has gone all in on New Bedford. He founded the Not Your Average Joe's chain of restaurants. All diners at your restaurant, Steve. He founded the Not Your Average Joe's restaurant 20 years ago and built it into a successful restaurant chain that extended down the East Coast. A few years ago, he decided to divest from the company. He could have built new restaurants anywhere or simply retired to Florida. But he wanted to make his mark in New Bedford, the place where his family has done business for 4 generations. He has put his hard-earned money behind his devotion to his city, and now he's leading New Bedford's burgeoning restaurant scene while ruining all of our diets along the way. Steve, thank you very much. Former Mayor John Bullard has been going all in on New Bedford his entire adult life. He's proven his skill and commitment again and again, not only as the city's leader during the challenging economy of the late 80s, but also as a historic preservationist, as a leader on climate action, and in federal service. At each stop, he has left an enduring legacy. And at this point, he's got nothing else to prove. But last year, I asked him to launch the New Bedford Ocean Cluster into an operating nonprofit, one that could accelerate New Bedford's emergence as the center of the blue economy. He agreed to it, even after I told him I wasn't about to pay him a dime for it. But Mayor Bullard loves New Bedford, and he understands as well as anyone the opportunity before us. He has poured himself into the establishment of this new institution that will help create well-paying jobs for our residents for years to come. Mayor Bullard, thank you. Helena Hughes has been going all in on New Bedford for decades, even though she doesn't look like she's been doing anything for decades. I always say that to her. As the head of the Immigrants Assistance Center, which this year is celebrating its 50th anniversary, she leads an organization that extends the welcome mat to those who choose to pursue the possibility of America right here in New Bedford. This past year, she has been instrumental in enabling 24 of our Afghan allies to settle into the life of the city, and now awaits, with extended hand, those fleeing the war in Ukraine. Helena, thank you. To fulfill the aspirations we hold for New Bedford, all of us, our city needs all of us to be all in. You will find that it's worth the effort. A city is more than a place on a map. It shapes our relationships with one another. It is woven into our individual identity. It is part of who we are, past, present, and future. When you devote your talent and energy to make your city a better place, you've committed to improving yourself. I look forward to the work ahead with all of you. Thank you, and God bless the city of New Bedford.
A major event like this also requires the support of many professionals to make it successful. So we would like to recognize a few others for their involvement today. New England Showtime Productions for providing the sound, the tables, the chairs. Reynolds DeWalt Company for printing the invitations. New Bedford High School students and staff for helping us out in so many ways today. The Century House for preparing today's delicious meal. The Mayor's Office for their assistance in organizing today's program, Sergio from Bad Monkey Pics for the wonderful photography, and all of our media partners and our sponsors for participating in this event. So now please rise as the New Bedford High School Junior ROTC retires the colors.
Retrieve the colors. Carry. Colors. Center. Face. Forward. March.
Mayor, thank you again very, very much. One more hand for the mayor, please. And on behalf of our board of directors, I want to thank our talented team for supporting this event over and over again, including Katie Green. She did an amazing job. Have a wonderful day. Please drive carefully.
Did you know that you can watch any of New Bedford Cable Network shows anytime, anywhere on all of your mobile devices? How, you may ask? Just log on to nbcablenetwork.com and bam! You have all 3 channels at your fingertips: public, educational, and government access. Here, you can view our program schedules, watch our channel's live broadcasts, or search for a particular program in our vast library of shows. Last year alone, New Bedford Cable Network produced over 500 shows, and nearly all of them are available online at nbcablenetwork.com. Not only can you stay up to date with what's happening in your local government and schools, but also dive into some of New Bedford Cable Network's original award-winning programs. So check us out at nbcablenetwork.com.
Families come in all sizes and shapes. Sometimes your friends are your family by choice, or sometimes you're just stuck with Uncle Charles. Sometimes you've got an office family. Yes! And sometimes Team Family has got your back. But what we know is that you want to protect the people that are close to you. The flu can unravel everything. Your flu vaccine protects you and your family. No matter what draws your family together, protect yourself. Protect your family. Everyone needs a flu vaccine.